Well, first of all, I want to welcome all of you to a little class that we're having on water tonight. Most of you have attended some of our other classes, and tonight I got asked if I would do a little bit of training on water and what we're doing today, what's happening with water. And as part of our series of these natural health classes, we thought we'd tell you a little bit about what we understand about water, what's happening with water today. Where I'd like to start is to review the intention of the water cycle from the time of the creation. And I think most of you know and understand that today the earth is 3/4 full of water. Did you know that the most important element on the planet is water? And so each and every day, as the heat in the sun evaporates the water, it converts it to steam, and it goes up into these cool clouds. It condenses, and eventually the clouds fill with water, and it begins raining, and we have rainwater coming back down onto the earth in the form of lakes and streams. And of course, early on in the creation, water was pure. People literally could go to a stream or a lake and drink the water, and they would be fine. They would not get sick. Well, over the years, what's happened with the onset of course, man, we ended up having problems with pollution, and we ended up doing things to pollute our own environment. We've done now today, I don't know how many thousands of cars drive on the face of the earth. I don't know how much industry has come and got involved, and we've got all kinds of problems with air pollution. In one of our previous classes, we talked about what we could do to clean our own environments with air, of our air. But today, if you think about it, there are thousands and thousands of chemicals released into the ozone, into the atmosphere every day. And when the precipitation comes down, it brings those particles back down to earth. You've heard of acid rain. Well, those particles come back down. Now, of course, we have a problem with land pollution. I don't know if you know this, but in the United States, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, is the one who's in charge of overseeing the number of chemicals that's on the planet. There are over 50,000 chemicals that's used in some form on the land on a daily basis in this world. Things to kill ants, and things to kill bugs from the fruit, and things to spray to make odor good, and underarm deodorants, and hairsprays. And if we counted all the chemicals that are being sprayed on top of the ground today that come over here but land up down there, it's 50,000 of them. Guess how many of them make it to the water table? 35,000 known analyzed chemicals have been analyzed in the water table. That's an awful lot of chemicals. Now, here's what's interesting. You know, the government agency can't take care of everything, okay? Only 10% of those chemicals are even tracked to see if they're in the water. That's 3,500. And of the 10%, something like only the top 10 are tracked against health diseases. So that means that anything, I think most of you know fluoride and chlorine and things like that are actually tracked and checked, and there is even what's called an RA, a risk assessment that's done on those chemicals to see how many will cause cancer per 1,000 people. Now, wouldn't you be sad to know that your own government knows right now that 1 out of every 1,000 of you will come up with cancer due to one of the chemicals that's being put into water to purify water. Now, in this state, in the state of Utah, there are 78 chemicals used to make water go clear. 78. And so 1 out of 1,000 is going to get cancer out of each of those chemicals. And so those risk assessments are done to try to help understand what's going to happen. Of course, there's a big trade-off. Everybody gets sick from water, or we put a whole bunch of chemicals to keep it clear and potable. Not safe, but potable, and a few of you are going to get cancer. Okay, now, how do I know that's true? Well, I searched high and low to make sure that that was a true statement. I don't know if you all have seen this paper called The Capital Connections But in the Capital Connections, it tracks all kinds of things related to health. You'll notice here brown bag lunches, high protein diets are hazardous, notes of interest that all related to health. But here's one I found on water, and I want to read this to you. It says, it's so difficult for EPA to regulate contaminants in drinking water because the more we know about it, the more we learn about the trade-offs that there has to be. They're known as risk trade-offs. Neva Mensky, who happens to be the president of the Department of Environmental Water Quality for the state of Utah in the Division of Drinking Water, she made this quote, and I quote her here because this is her quote in this paper. "We're learning about very resistant pathogens in water. They're very difficult to kill, so we need strong disinfectants. These chemicals may ultimately cause cancer over a lifetime. So the question becomes, would you rather have diarrhea today or a cancer over a 70-year period?" End of quote. So that means we know that these chemicals are causing problems. Now, what kind of chemicals? We're talking about chlorine and aluminum sulfate and aluminum fluoride and ketonic polymers. And I could put 78 more bottles over here that are blue and orange and all kinds of colors showing you all the different chemicals that are used. And by the way, they're not all used. They're used in different counties. And it's all based on how much solids, how much minerals and how much metals and how much things are in the water. As we've continued to pollute water through farming, through spraying, through dumping things on the soil, all of these things, throwing the paint in the garbage can, putting the oil out along the fence, all those things work their way back into the water table. Okay? So every time you throw a Pepsi-Cola out at the picnic table on the land by the lake, those acids and chemicals land up somewhere. Okay? Water pollution today, most of you know that big industries are being criticized if they have in the past somehow disposed of some of their toxins through dumping them in rivers and lakes. It's real easy to dilute them and spread them out and nobody knows they're doing it. And of course today they're catching all kinds of companies that do environmental poisoning, and they're doing something. They can always tell because the fish die, things happen to the water, and all of a sudden there's a big black flag and somebody knows that somewhere along the line here. Most of you have seen what happens when an oil tanker spills its oil in the ocean. I think the Valdez was the last one that did it and made not only national but world news. The cleanup took years. The environment was poisoned. The wildlife, the fish and birds and the ducks and everything, everybody takes a toll when something like that happens. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, we're polluting the air, the land, and the water just being a part of this big planet of ours. So what are we going to do about it?